Hey everyone, it's Deja from CrochetEverAfter.com. Today I'm doing a review on the Edgit, which is a piercing and crocheting hook. So I got a viewer request that wanted me to do some edging on a pillowcase. And rather than use the still hooks that I already have, I wanted to see if they made anything that was more specific for that type of work, and I found these Edgits. So I promptly bought them, and I'm going to give them a go with these projects to see how well they work. They're supposed to be kind of a piercing crochet hook, so it should make it easier to work into my pillowcases rather than trying to use my steel crochet hooks, which, may not be quite as pointy. So I'm going to open these up and see how pointy they actually are, but stick around and see how well they work out. Alright, I pulled the book out and the crochet hooks so that we can take a closer look at what comes in this kit. So let's look at the crochet hooks first. Let me move this so we can see a little better. I wasn't sure why they gave me two. Now I understand after reading through the booklet a little bit. So they're both capped, but this one doesn't really need a cap. It's just a regular crochet hook. You can see that it has the rounded edge, and it's just a smaller hook because you're going to be using crochet thread for most of your projects, and it's a 1.75 millimeter. Then we have the Edgit Crochet hook, and this is the special one. You'll see, let me pull out this one actually so you can see the difference. You'll see that the tops of these are quite different. So we have a rounded edge on our normal hook, and then a super pointy one on our Edgit Crochet hook. So that's going to enable us to poke through our fabric to be able to make these edgings that we see here. So the pointy hook is not going to do all of the work. I'm going to show you in just a second in the book how you will make the edging. I'm also doing some tutorials on pillowcase edging, so I'll be going from this book as well on the initial round of crochet. But also, both of these are the same size. They're both 1.75. The Edgit doesn't say the size, but they are the same size. So you can begin the first round completely with the Edgit and then switch to your rounded crochet hook. So when we're looking through this book, it gives us information on how to work into our blanket. They deal mostly with flannel blankets because this is for baby blankets. They give proceeds to a charity that gives blankets away as well, so that's a really nice added bonus when you purchase this. But the way that they create most of the holes in their blanket is through sewing. So you'll see on my other project that I'm doing for the website that we're going to sew into the pillowcase to create the beginning holes. So we should have some holes already that we can work into. It's going to space it out for us, so when we crochet into it, so you can see over here how it's going to be crocheted into, we'll have some basic holes that we can poke our pointy needle through, or pointy crochet hook through. So that's going to help us a little bit. I'll show you how it's going, but the book is good. It's got a few different designs that it comes with. They also have lots of additional books with much more edges. Each of the edges gives a pretty good description on how to make it. I'm not seeing, though, how, if it's a stitch pattern like this blossom one here, it looks like it needs to be a certain distance apart, and it doesn't tell what the stitch repeat is. So that's the only thing that I am not seeing on here that I would like to see, so that way you know that you can kind of try to space out your stitches correctly so that you get completely spaced out flowers. So that's the only thing I'm missing, is it telling me how many stitches I need to make multiples of. So like if this said make a multiple of 10 stitches, I would make sure that all of my stitch count all the way around would end up with 10 stitches so that I would get even equidistant flowers. But that's the only thing that this is missing, but otherwise it looks like it should work out pretty well. I'm going to be making my own edging for the pillowcases, but I'm going to be using the basics of working into the blanket or the pillowcase in my case to that the on the edge crochet Edgit pattern book number 4 is telling me. So I'm going to go ahead and start sewing my pillowcases so that I get those holes right now. Okay, so I have already done my sewing edge, as you can see, and I've begun making my first round of single crochet as the book states. So when I put my hook into the hole that's already made by my zigzag stitch, I still have to push a little bit because this is thicker than the hole that my needle made. And then when I come back, I'm finding it difficult. It's taking a lot of extra time because I'm trying to get back through the hole, which still it does not quite want to come, and then when I pull back I seem to pull on some of the threads, and see I just did it and made kind of a pulled thread there, so hopefully I can just pull that out. So it's a little bit difficult with this hook to get back through. So hopefully I get the hang of it a little bit better by the end of this pillowcase, so maybe practice on some clothing, old clothing, or an old pillowcase before you make the project for somebody. Possibly this kit is more geared towards flannel blankets, and I know flannel has a much easier kind of working surface. I don't think it has any kind of runs that it can get. It's kind of like you poke the hole and it makes like a nice big hole. So I might have to try this kit with a flannel blanket as well to see if that helps more. But so far it's a little difficult. I'm hoping that this is just a learning curve to get this yarn through, that I'm not going to have this trouble all the way around. So you can see I'm pulling up and doing my single crochets. I am pulling the fabric a little bit down as I'm doing it. I think it's all going to even out by the time I'm done, so, and also with blocking can hopefully straighten that out a little bit, but it's not too noticeable at the moment. It's kind of just blending. If you look at it from far away, it's not really showing like I've totally squished it, and if I keep it even all the way around, it should just kind of be good, but it's a little difficult to pull this all the way up to keep the fabric straight, because when you go to enter your hook in the next stitch, it kind of pulls on this previous stitch. So even if I'm trying to keep this as loose as possible, it's kind of difficult. So, but the hook is very pointy, it's very easy to get through the fabric, so that's a plus. It's just a little difficult getting the crochet thread back through the fabric. But I think I'm getting a little bit better at it. So I'm going to keep going, and then I'll show you how it looks at the end of the round. Alright, I've worked all the way around my pillowcase, and I've gotten a little bit better at figuring out how to use the pointy hook. So I have a few more stitches left so I can go over with you what I've found out. So you can see on the opposite side, my stitches are a little wonky looking, not too well spaced, and then it gets a little better on the side that I've figured out some stuff. So when you're working with this pointy hook, instead of, because I was getting caught on the little fine threads of the pillowcase, so instead what I was doing, I was going in, and I was going in just enough to the shaft to grab my thread. Instead, what I'm going to do is push it just about as far as it'll go. So push it till it kind of doesn't want to give any more, and it's going to open up your hole a little bit wider so you can pull the thread through without getting stuck as much. So you might want to bring it right over the top of where it's supposed to go, and then when you pull it through, you can see I did not get stuck that time. And it's kind of self-repairing almost, because it starts to close back up if you start pulling on your case, because it's not punching a bigger hole, it's just pushing your threads apart so you can pull your needle, or not your needle, but your pointy hook through. So I'm trying to get right in the middle of my stitch so that they look better spaced apart. And I found also, sometimes I do get stuck, so I just push through again a little bit more. Oops, lost it. takes quite a learning curve. I'm also noticing that I should have stitched a little bit closer to the edge. I'm kind of creating a little fold over with the excess pillowcase because trying to pull it as tall as the pillowcase is a little difficult. But it's probably, it doesn't, like, I can't even really tell the difference. It doesn't make a big difference, but I know it's there. It's a little bit fatter, but that's okay to me. But if you have a raw edge, then it might work well. If you do the deep stitching like I have here, you can see how it's kind of folded over here. So if you have a deep stitch and you have a raw edge of maybe flannel, this could work because it'll help fold it over when you crochet into it and create a nice edge to it. So that is something you can try if you have a raw edged item that you're putting a border on. Okay, so I finished my edging project with the On the Edge crochet hook, and what I can say about the product is the pointy hook is great. It will poke through just about anything, as you saw. It came through tons of layers on these seams of the pillowcase. The rounded hook worked perfectly well to work all of my stitches, so those were both very handy. I wish there was a little bit more info on working into the pillowcase, maybe some tips and tricks that I had to kind of figure out on my own to get this to sit well and look nice and space out well. But overall, the hooks were really great. As you can see, this little flower edging I got from the book. One other thing that the book I wish had was stitch repeats. So I kind of made up my own stitch repeat for this, and I altered it. It's not the exact same flower edging. I just did the flower part with a shell edging that I came up with. But I wish that the book told me a stitch repeat. So on this pillowcase I had to count all of my stitches and then increase on the first round to come up with the correct stitch count to make my shells evenly go all the way around so I wouldn't have a gap in my shells or my flowers. So that's one thing that the book does not have. You'll have to kind of figure out the stitch repeat for each border that you want to do. But overall it was a really nice little package. It works well for its intended purpose, which is to stab your fabric so you can put an edging on it. Actually, I think this is my pokey one. Yeah, that's my pokey one. So I'm not sure if this will get dull over time, but it worked great for the entire edging of this pillowcase. That was a lot of different hole punches. So you can see it says pattern book 4 in the books. They have quite a few other books out with different borders. I only have this one, so I can't tell you if the other ones have stitch repeats on their books, but you know, if you see one of the edgings that you like, you can pretty much kind of figure it out. I don't want to open this up and, you know, reveal all the different pattern instructions for everything, but if you have questions on pattern repeats, I can try to help you figure out if you need to figure out how many stitches to put in between. But otherwise, I really like this. If you want to do a border type edging on a blanket or a pillowcase or anything like that, I would recommend this to do it. It works well. You do need the sewing machine though to kind of help you get the even stitches. But overall, it's a good product. So I thank you for watching.